Welcome back to another explainer. Today, we're looking at a specific 2019 Ukrainian hemp cultivar that honestly represents a massive leap in high-margin agronomy. If you want to know how precision breeding is literally reshaping the economics of agriculture, you are in the exact right place. Let's get right into it.
Think about this for a second. What if a significantly shorter plant actually brings you way more profit? It's super counterintuitive, right? We're all so conditioned to think bigger is always better when it comes to crop yields. But engineering a plant to be intentionally shorter, well, as you'll see, that actually unlocks an incredibly lucrative new business model. So here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover the paradigm shift, the biological blueprints, the biochemical gold mine, a bit of a European showdown, and finally, those sweet business applications. All right, kicking things off with part one, the paradigm shift, or the new wave of breeding. We're basically seeing this massive transition from the huge, really difficult to harvest textile plants of the past to today's highly engineered multifunctional crops. Think of it as old school versus new wave. The old school Soviet-era traditional cultivars were absolute giants, like 3 to 4 meters tall. They were a total nightmare for modern machinery, often requiring some pretty specialized, expensive equipment just to harvest them. But the new wave? That's pure precision engineering. We're talking about a highly adaptable plant sitting right around 2 meters tall. It's designed to perfectly balance seed, fiber, and biomass while integrating seamlessly into standard, low-input mechanized farming. So how did we get here? Well, the Institute of Vast Crops really sparked this whole new era of targeted biochemical breeding. Back in 2016, a cultivar named Halacia totally shattered records for pure seed yield. But the true industrial breakthrough hit in 2019 with our main focus for today, Mykolaychyk. This cultivar didn't just max out oil content, it simultaneously lowered the plant's height. It proved you could engineer the internal chemistry of a plant and optimize its physical architecture for the farmer at the exact same time. And that breakthrough paved the way for subsequent powerhouses like Larina in 2021. Moving right along to part two, the biological blueprint. Let's unpack the core specs. The absolute most crucial point here is its height, exactly 209.3 centimeters. That's roughly 35 centimeters shorter than older standard varieties. Now, why does that specific number matter so much? Simply put, it perfectly fits a standard grain combine without a single expensive modification. If you're a small or medium-sized farmer, you don't need to go out and buy a fleet of specialized hemp harvesting tractors. You just use the equipment you already own. Talk about lowering the barrier to entry, right? And paired directly with that shorter height is this frankly staggering number, 40%. That is the peak oil content in the seeds, with some individual plants pushing all the way up to 44%. Breeders used self-pollinated lines to specifically accumulate this high oil trait, generation after generation. So you're basically getting a massive volume of oil out of a much more manageable plant. Of course, massive yields don't mean a thing if the crop isn't legal, and that's where this 0.001% THC level comes in. It boasts absolute genetic stability as a monoecious plant with practically zero THC. That means total legal compliance and total peace of mind for the farmer. There's literally zero risk of crossing regulatory thresholds, making it a completely safe industrial asset. When you stock it up against comparable regional varieties, Mykolaychyk secures the absolute #1 spot in the registry for oil yield, easily outperforming Artemida and Harmonia. It's really carved out this unique niche for itself, maximum oil combined with minimum height. But hey, raw oil volume is really only half the story. Which brings us to part 3, the biochemical gold mine, the secret weapon. The real secret weapon hiding inside this plant is GLA, or gamma-linolenic acid. If you're not familiar, GLA is this rare, highly sought-after polyunsaturated fatty acid. It's a heavy hitter in regenerative cosmetics and pharmaceutical supplements. Usually you have to extract GLA from incredibly expensive sources, think evening primrose or borage oils, but by selectively breeding Mykolaychyk, scientists unlocked a natural, highly accessible, plant-based source for this premium chemical. Just look at the complete fatty acid profile of this seed. You've got robust omega-6 and omega-3 levels sitting perfectly at that highly desired 3-to-1 ratio for human nutrition. But the real kicker here is the elevated 3 to 5% GLA content. Combine that with a naturally mild, unsaturated taste profile, and Mykolaychyk oil becomes highly functional. We're not just talking about a premium salad dressing here. This is a base ingredient for high-end regenerating skin serums.
When you translate that biology into real-world economics, the results are astounding. By yielding oil with the specific GLA profile, farmers are literally growing a far more accessible alternative to extremely expensive cosmetic oils. We're talking oils that can retail for up to $80 per 100 milliliters. It's wild to think about, but this essentially elevates the crop from a basic food commodity into a highly lucrative niche pharmaceutical and cosmetic ingredients.
Let's move to part 4, the European showdown, Ukraine versus the EU catalog.
Let's let the numbers speak for themselves here. We're comparing Mykolaychyk with Secueni Jubileo, which is a highly respected Romanian cultivar optimized for the exact same continental climate. The Ukrainian variety wins on raw metrics, for sure. It produces significantly higher oil content, 35 to 40% versus the Romanian's 30 to 32%. It yields more stems per hectare, and it features that elevated GLA we were just geeking out about. However, the Romanian variety holds massive advantages for European commerce. It's got that official EU catalog registration, and it has extensively scientifically documented non-bitter taste profiles, which, by the way, is a major hurdle for food-grade hemp. So really, it's a classic trade-off. The Ukrainian New Wave cultivars were bred specifically with extreme drought and heat tolerance to combat modern climate instability in Eastern Europe. They're basically survivalists that pump out massive amounts of oil. On the flip side, established EU varieties like Secueni Jubileo or the Polish Białobrzeskie offer streamlined, standardized European market access right out of the box. And finally, part 5, business applications, turning agronomy into ROI. All this biology creates the ultimate eco-materials business model. By utilizing a cascading zero-waste processing system, a single field can generate 3 distinct high-margin revenue streams. First off, you cold-press the seeds for that premium, GLA-rich food and cosmetic oil. Second, you take the leftover seed residue and process that into high-protein hemp hearts and sports nutrition powders. And third, because this plant still retains over 29% fiber in its stems, you harvest those stalks for technical textiles, bioplastics, and building materials like hempcrete. Literally, nothing goes to waste. Now, to actually achieve this on the ground, farmers seed these plants widely, around 45 to 60 centimeters apart. Why? Because giving the plant that extra space encourages it to branch out and create way more seed heads. And since it only requires a short 94-day technical cycle, you're guaranteed a safe harvest before those autumn rains hit. Factor in that perfect 209-centimeter height that lets you use standard farming equipment, and that massive 1.45 tons per hectare seed yield gives you an incredibly fast return on investment. The barrier to entry for this level of profitability is just remarkably low. As we wrap up this explainer, just consider how precision agricultural engineering is quietly revolutionizing our supply chains right under our noses. We've seen how merely tweaking the height and the internal biochemistry of one single plant can cascade into zero-waste food, premium cosmetics, and green building materials all at once. It really makes you wonder, what other game-changing green materials are just waiting to be grown? Keep that in mind next time you think about the future of farming.